Howdy, YouTube. Socialism on roids here. I'm not really doing a rant in this video so much as I want to look at what the left should probably do, at least on the electoral front going forward. And before anyone starts, yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff going on, whether it's drama between leftist YouTube content creators, or whether it's the umpteenth shooting rampage this week, or whether it's the Republican Party losing Gen Z in the most recent elections, and what else? Or whether it's Donald Trump and his shenanigans. Yeah, I know I sound a bit dispassionate, but part of it's just being burnt out, work, seeing things devolve over the past 10 years has just, a combination of these things has left me feeling like, I think it's left me feeling like, say, Bilbo from the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship, where he said, "I feel like butter scraped over too much bread." Combination of lack of sleep and all this other stuff. It gets tiring after a while. Just all the little things going on. But at the same time, I can't afford to give up. You can't afford to give up. None of us can really afford to give up in this battle to protect pluralistic democracy, to protect the values, the enlightenment of modernity. Our battle to win the long-term battle, the long-term struggle to bring about the implementation of social democracy and later democratic socialism in the United States. None of us are really going to live to see the end of our struggle. None of us are going to live to see the end of our program. But this electoralism is a part of that, and we need to be considering what the left is going to be doing in this upcoming presidential election. And not even the presidential election. We need to be working towards protecting the governorship in Kentucky, because again, Bashar is a Bernie-crat. He got elected by the closest margin in all of Kentucky history back in 2019, and he faces so much opposition in his home state of Kentucky, and the knives are coming out for him, even though his approval rating is like, 55% in the state. The Republican Party, they're going to be doing everything they can to get him out of there. And before anyone on the left, before any of my fellow leftists even think about letting into the guy, saying, "Oh, there's so little that he's accomplished," though. Hey, he's done what he could despite the Republicans having a veto-proof majority in both houses of the Kentucky state legislature. He's done what he could. And we need a fighter like him. We need to help him in any way we can to ensure that the governorship of Kentucky stays in the hands of the left, or at least what passes for the left here in the States. I mean, he's quite literally one of the few bright spots we have, yet for whatever reason, people tend to forget all about the governorship of Bashar being in the hands of the Bernie Sanders movement. Kentucky's governorship, it's important. We got to fight and hold on for that. We got to hold on to it. God, I'm jumbling over my words. I'm not editing this out, by the way. I don't even care about editing. So it's like every video I post is just me being raw and leaving in all of my little mistakes. And I know it's old fashioned, yeah, I know, but this isn't my bread and butter. It's not how I earn a living. So, you know, every video I've posted for years, going all the way back to like 2010, is just me being off the cusp, and just straightforward. I don't, all the foibles, all the gabs. You know, there's really no point in hiding my little cadences from my viewers. So, but I digress. Going back to what I was saying before, protecting the governorship, protecting Bashar's governorship in Kentucky is paramount. Unless, of course, he's limited by consecutive term laws or whatever. I know a few states that are like that. Might have to do some research on that. But looking ahead to 2024, do I believe that Marianne Williamson, that she really has a chance at putting up a fight against Biden? No. Understand, when Bernie Sanders ran for president in 2020, he had several major elements going in his favor. One, he had spent every waking moment since 2016 laying the groundwork for his 2020 presidential run. Whether it's building infrastructure, inspiring an entire generation of activists to join various organizations, build up a movement, creating his own political pipeline for training candidates, and he built his profile for his next presidential run. He had laid the groundwork for all of this. He built a powerful foundation, and you know, it allowed him to win the first 3 primaries. But you know, it's just. But even he wasn't able to cinch the deal. So Marianne Williamson, she hasn't really built a foundation of anything. She hasn't tried to build movement infrastructure, electoral infrastructure. She hasn't done anything that would help build up. And for any leftist candidate that has any hope of doing well in a primary, especially against an incumbent Democratic president, that's absolutely vital. And if Bernie Sanders, if his campaign wasn't able to get past the gauntlet of challenges despite all of that, how the hell does anyone think that Marianne Williamson, someone who isn't exactly the best spokesperson for leftism, I mean, she still has that baggage of being just that person who came off as being inundated with a bunch of woo stuff. Sometimes, look, does the left need a spokesperson? Yes, but the quality of the spokesperson, the candidate, is just as important as having a candidate at all. And so I'm not telling anyone who to vote for. I'm not even going to imply that you shouldn't vote for Marianne Williamson. By all means, vote for her. But go into it with the knowledge that she has absolutely no chance of winning against Biden in the primaries or Donald Trump or DeSantis in the presidential election. So, So strategically, what should we do? If Williamson is a non-starter, if she just ain't it, what do we do? Well, this is where we have to consider our options. We have to consider what's possible. What's possible in this election, since we don't have the best spokesperson, since we don't have someone who's actually a viable enough candidate to be strident enough and tough enough, who has enough advantages going for them into this primary and into the presidential election. What do we do? Well, there's always state, local, and city elections. And what I mean by that is, expect the Democratic National Committee to drop the ball. In 2016, the Republican National Committee, they'd become so convinced that Donald Trump was going to lose against Hillary Clinton that they poured all of their resources into state and local offices. And because of this, the Republicans walked away with over 70% of all down-ticket races. Now, how can we use this to our advantage? The Republican National Committee, the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, they're going to leave a fuck ton of local and state level races anemic as hell going forward. They did it in 2016. They did it in Virginia in the 2017 statewide elections. And this, during the 2017 Virginia statewide elections, this created an opening for the DSA to win elections in Virginia. Because the Democrats, the National Democrats, would not contest the lower house of the state, the lower house of the Virginia delegates, Virginia State Assembly of Delegates. Because they would not contest this against the GOP, this allowed the DSA and other socialist organizations to move in and provide the muscle and the organizing needed to win. And socialist candidates and their activists brought things so close. They made up so much of the lost they made up for so much of what the DNC wasn't bringing forward, that we came this close to retaking the Virginia state legislature. This close. It had to be decided on a coin toss because the last race was a tie. It was during this election, during these statewide elections in Virginia, in which notables like Lee Carter were elected. And Lee Carter went on to become a sort of poster child for Democratic socialists who could win in rural areas. Because, again, he won in a district where the Republicans had achieved victory by between 10 and 15% for over 40 years. He came in and won by 10%. Now, while the Democratic Party in Washington is distracted, while they are distracted with the spectacle of Donald Trump versus Biden, we need to get as many socialist candidates, as many DSA endorsed candidates elected at the state and local level in city races and city council positions everywhere. We need to get as many candidates elected as we can. If we play our cards right, we can quintuple the number of elected socialists in the United States. And we need to do this. This is important, because if the Democratic Party, if the National Democrats drop the ball, as they are wanting to do, if they take their eye off what's going on down ticket, we're not going to have a buffer at the local and state level in place against a Trump presidency. We are in a unique position to pick up the slack and win local and state level offices to such an extent that we could take over more state Democratic parties. Not just the one in Nevada, but we could run many state Democratic Party affiliates by doing this. We could take over. It is an opening that we need to exploit. If Marianne Williamson's candidacy is a non-starter, if she's not going to be able to really accomplish much, and believe me, I don't think she can, because when's the last time you actually heard about Williamson? Since the end of the Democratic primary, of the 2020 Democratic primary. That's right. You haven't. And since the Green Party is a non-starter, because over half the Green Party essentially just said screw you to their own candidate because they somehow over-cynic themselves into gutting his campaign. A third party, we already know that's going to be a non-starter. Hell, the Bernie or Busters, they didn't show up for Howie Hawkins, despite him trying to build a legitimate leftist coalition third party candidacy. And him being an actual Teamster, pro-union, hardline, civil rights activist all the way, it wasn't enough for these people. It shows that the very people who said that they were going to vote third party if Bernie Sanders didn't get the nomination, they couldn't be taken seriously. From this point forward, there's no reason to believe that those people are going to be useful to electoral politics outside of the Democratic Party. So this leaves us with one course of action. In order to keep the left-wing message alive, we have to make sure that we have lots of little spokespeople, a bench of sorts, a massive bench built up by taking advantage of the Democratic Party's absence down ticket. And you know that's going to happen. You know it's going to happen regardless of whether Donald Trump gets elected. Again, I don't really believe much from the polls, because polls less than a week ago were saying that Biden was going to wind up running away with it. Now they got polls showing that Trump is going to run away with it. And it's like the polls don't mean anything. They're all over the place. And moreover, Gen Z fucking hates the Republican Party so goddamn much, and they've come out in mass. I personally don't think there's much. I think it's more of a mix of things at this point. We're not far enough along to really determine how the 2024 presidential election is going to go between the two major parties. So going forward, like I've said before, we need to take this unique opportunity to increase the number of elected socialists at the state, local, and municipal levels manifold. We need to elect as many socialists as possible, whether it be to city council, county commissioner's office, whatever. Everywhere we can. Yes, again, there are elections. There are elections that are. God, man, you're so goddamn stupid. Yeah. Again, no rehearsal, just off the cusp. But we need to take this time to make a decisive, massive gain in socialist elected candidates across the country. And the RNC, they're going to go into this thinking that the absence of the Democratic Party means the absence of opposition. Remember, note that in 2022, in the 2022 midterms, there was a red wave. It wasn't a Republican red wave, though. It was a socialist red wave. Socialist candidates endorsed by the DSA, had between a 75% to 85% rate of success. And we need to make use of this. We need to weaponize this rate of success going forward. We need to have the DSA insert itself into as many of these state and local elections, elections for state legislature, city councils we can, to ensure that all down-ticket races, that as many down-ticket races go in our favor as possible. We need to make sure that we're the ones walking away from this election with the most in terms of territory gained. The Democrats in Washington, like I've said before, I don't really trust them to put out the resources to stop the GOP. And they're going to be so preoccupied with the spectacle in Washington that I'm not sure they would actually lift a finger to do anything to contest these lower ticket races, these down ticket races. The Republican Party, they could walk away with it in the absence of the National Democrats. That's where we have to come in. We need to build a bench, because this is going to allow us to have a better set of leftist candidates who can potentially run for president one day. And even if not, they'll be in a better position to run for Congress, to run for governorships, to run for the U.S. Senate. Oh God, look at my jowls. Oh God, I'm getting older. Okay, I'm getting older. I'm getting gray hair. My face is getting wrinkly. Yay, aging millennials. But yeah, when life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade. And we have a strategic. We have a strategic opportunity here to essentially make socialists, to elect more socialists to the local and state level offices across America than have been elected since the beginning of the 20th century. We could bring back the days of sewer socialism. Brian Johnson, his election in Chicago against a Clinton centrist. One of it shows that we can win. We can win against these people. The fire has not dimmed yet. And it's up to us to keep that flame tended. Going forward, I'm just saying we need to consider our options here. And most of the opportunities may very well just be those that nobody's paying attention to. In the words of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, for the Return of the King, two Peter Jackson Lord of the Ring references in one video. Keep Sauron's eyes blind to all else that moves. We can win. We can win big. We don't necessarily have to win the presidency to win big. As a Republican congressman back in the 90s once put it, control the states, you control the country. Let's lay the groundwork for that. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's okay. This is Socialism on Roids. Peace out.